Okay, so I wanted to come on here and make another video and share some of what I would consider to be some cosmic truths that I've deduced thus far about this realm that we exist in. But before I get into that, I kind of want to backtrack a little bit and kind of explain like the purpose of my channel, right? I have other channels here on YouTube. I originally started this channel when I saw a prominent creator in the conscious space, in the metaphysical space, that was experiencing some psychosis. I wanted to do a video explaining that situation because I was noticing that a lot of people were misinterpreting what was going on with her. And as a result, I also saw just some gaps in general within online occult and metaphysical and spiritual spaces, especially as it relates to Black women and representation in those spaces, where you'll have people who are speaking about certain aspects of this matrix or this existence that we dwell in. And they're not necessarily speaking from a place of clarity or groundedness. They are operating from ego or, in her case, spiritual psychosis, which she herself admitted that she was going through. But I wanted to make it clear that the purpose of this channel is to educate and inform women specifically about what this realm, like what this reality truly is, to provide some level of empowerment, tools, and insight on how to navigate it. So if it ever gives the impression that I'm trying to be preachy or judgmental, that's not the case. The reason that I'm repeating a lot of the same topics is because they're very important and they're interconnected. The point of this channel is to connect the dots and learn and grow together. I believe that we are meant to be perpetual students on this planet. We're meant to learn from one another. And a lot of learning is done through repetition in order to actually retain it. So when I'm speaking about the patriarchy, when I'm speaking about antinatalism, child-free, when I'm speaking about the women being God, women having creator energy, when I'm speaking about energetic transference, when I'm speaking about destiny swapping not being real, when I'm speaking about subject matters related to males co-opting womanhood, right? When I'm speaking about DL vampires, male vampires, energetic vampirism, psychic vampirism. When I'm speaking about these topics, low vibrational cities, low trust, zero trust societies, it's all interconnected, right? And so that is the reason why I keep bringing up the same topics, because ultimately I'm trying to assist with moving the collective consciousness forward as it relates to women specifically. I believe that is my purpose in this life. It is my purpose to put the information that I know to be true out there and add to the many voices that already exist in these spaces to give confirmation to others who also have come to the same conclusions. Like, this is supposed to be a journey where we're all learning together. So the topic of this video was something that is near and dear to me as it relates to what are some of the spiritual reasons why we as women endure what we are enduring on this planet? Like, why is it that we are enduring suffering in this planet? I spoke in another video, and I think I even linked a video to another creator's channel who did a video about how this realm hates women. Schizo Dumps, he did a video, I think a year ago, 2 years ago, speaking about how this matrix hates women. And I completely agree with a lot of what he covered in the video. But to expound on that idea further, I think that it needs to be understood that not only has there been a shift where we're now living in the upside down, where men believe that they are the ones that are the true superiors, the superior species, the superior gender, the superior sex in this realm. and women have convinced themselves that they are inferior to males. All of this is the root cause of all of this is patriarchy usurping the matriarchy many, many, many years ago, right? This planet that we exist on is inherently feminine. It is inherently female, Mother Earth, right? This Earth was once entirely matriarchal, right? We still have matriarchal societies that exist. I believe in Africa and certain parts of Asia, we do still have that. But it needs to be understood that the entire planet at one point was matriarchal. It was matriarchal societies worldwide, right? This was at one point an entirely feminine planet. I am of the belief that the male species is inherently foreign to this planet. They came here to lower the vibration of this planet. That was their purpose, right? I don't believe that we are, technically speaking, the same species as the male, right? Over years, has there been some sort of hybridized version of humanoid species formed from mixing with them over time? Absolutely. But ultimately, they are foreign to us, right? That would explain how and why our bodies tend to have negative reactions to them, why they throw women's pH balance off a lot of the time, why there's an enormous amount of disease spreading that often comes from hetero contact with the male and the female via sex. We already know there's a lot of disease spreading amongst men and men, but even when men are interacting with women, a lot of the times when women are encountering any kind of pH balances being thrown off, or just this disruption to their genital region, it's usually because of some contact that has been made with the male species, the human male species. And so for that reason alone, I also believe that we are inherently different from one another, right? But it needs to be understood that a lot of the suffering that occurs, that we endure in this realm, and why it seems like this realm hates us, right? More so than anyone else, right? Especially Black women, right? It's due to the patriarchy having reign over us for centuries and centuries, right? The patriarchy predates racism and white supremacy. It is the creator of all the isms that exist, as well as religion. Religion is a tenet and tool of the patriarchy that is used to further oppress and suppress the collective masses by giving some religious doctrine behind why they're oppressing you, right? To give the oppression credence by making it seem as though it is spiritual law that you as a woman are inferior to a man, right? So the patriarchal system came after the matriarchy fell, right? And that is what created racism and all the other isms. Every system of oppression and suppression was created to keep human beings in general divided, distracted, and just constantly competing with one another. Now, when it relates to women, and I spoke about this in a video like last year, I think it was, the goal for most males, regardless of their sexual orientation, is to keep women divided. To keep women divided and fighting. This is how control is ultimately maintained in this realm, on this planet. The reason that they have been able to have control, ultimate control over this planet, ultimate control over women, and they've been able to reign for so long, is because they work to keep women divided from one another. The perpetual triangulation and competition that they have with women fighting one another for male validation, male acceptance, to be chosen by a man, that aspect of the patriarchy alone is what has kept women suffering and in a perpetual state of suffering, right? Because so many women, even if they're aware of it or somewhat cognizant of it, they cannot, it's like a spell that cannot be broken in their head, where they are able to resist the temptation to choose a man before themselves, right? Or to have this longing to be chosen and accepted by a man and saved by a man, right? Seeking these protections and provisions from the male species. So that's one of the primary reasons why this realm as we know it even keeps on going. The continued enslavement of the human species is primarily due in part to women's inability to wake up and realize that we are the ultimate power. We are superior to the male species. And we are the ones that have the ultimate control and ability to shut everything down simply by no longer giving birth, right? Simply by no longer giving life and continuing the cycle of humanity. We have the ability to literally move the world, right? Or make it come to a standstill, right? We have the ability to shut down entire economies just by closing our legs. And I'm so serious, right? Because even males already go to one another for sexual gratification. But what is the thing that they cannot give one another? They cannot give one another life. They cannot produce life, right? And they also are unable to produce the level of empathy or emotion. They are unable to gather that from one another. When they're interacting with one another, it's like pulling from a bottomless pit, right? They don't get anything back, right? It's not a conducive feedback loop. Versus when the feminine is there, then it becomes more whole, right? That's the purpose of male and feminine to begin with, right? We live in a realm of duality. You must have one and the other to have some level of balance in this realm. And the way the matrix that we exist in is set up, males, even if they're not consciously aware of their participation in the oppression and suppression of women, on a subconscious level, they still know that they have to behave in that way towards us in order to maintain control, right? Because keeping us divided and distracted and competing with one another, it's what keeps us enslaved in this realm, right? In this reality. And it also provides loosh energy to the entities that ultimately are presiding over the earth, right? The entities that sent them down here to begin with, right? And the hierarchal systems put in place by the patriarchy, they have been in place for as long as man has ruled over this earth, right? So as long as man has been able to have any sort of reign over this realm is when these systems came into place. Because prior to them existing, we were not living in the way that we are now, right? Capitalism was not a thing, okay? But I can honestly say I do feel a shift. I do think that this time is coming to an end soon. I am seeing larger swaths of women collectively waking up when we have things like the 4B movement, child-free movement, antinatalism. Antinatalism is not as popular, I would say, but even the fact that you have so many women embracing the idea of being child-free, and even males, like a lot of males deciding that they don't want to have kids, right? With them, a lot of them have an urge to quote unquote spread their seed, even though they don't have a seed, but they have a urge to impregnate women, right? But even with them, more and more of them are rejecting the idea of being a parent, right? Online communities where you have child-free for child-free are rapidly growing, where you have these males saying they're getting vasectomies, right? I've met men in real life who have claimed that they don't want kids, but they are refusing to get a vasectomy. I never believe it's true when men claim that until they actually get snipped. But there is beginning to be a growing collective of men that are opting out of parenthood as well, right? But ultimately, the key to breaking this collective spell, this over the human consciousness in general, is to come to recognize that we're in a matrix to begin with, right? A lot of what holds women back from waking up is their attachment, and this actually applies to everyone, but the attachment that you have to people, places, and things in this realm are what keeps you stuck and what keeps you enslaved, right? We came here to learn detachment and to rise in consciousness. That's the purpose, is to learn detachment and rise in consciousness. Recognize the fact that you are literally on a loosh farm and your energy is being farmed nonstop. And when you're giving birth to future slaves, you're just feeding the system. You're feeding the entities that are presiding over this earth and stealing your energy, right? Consuming your energy. You're sacrificing your own to these entities each and every time you give birth and you bring more souls here. That's how you remain trapped in this realm, right? So the first step is recognizing that you're in a matrix to begin with, learning detachment, using that detachment to rise in consciousness, stop contributing to the loosh farm, remove your energy from the matrix, recognize the fact that racism, as well as any other ism, classism, colorism, religious indoctrination, they're all just products of the patriarchy, tools of the patriarchy. They're one big energy harvest. It's a massive egregore that is meant to keep you trapped and tethered to the 3D, right? No race is superior over the other one, right? You're not inherently inferior to white people or any other group of people. And you're also not necessarily inherently superior to any of them, right? Your belief in that is your ego talking. And that's another thing. You need to have an ego death, right? You need to recognize that we're all humans having the same human experience, and you over associating with your meat suit, which you're not taking with you when you pass on, right? Even when you get recycled back in, you're going to come back in a new meat suit. You're not going to have the same one that you have now. So you could essentially have a chip on your shoulder about Black people or white people or Asian people and literally come back in a meat suit of a white person, of a Black person, of an Asian person, of a person of Asian descent. So you being overly caught up on things like class, race, skin color, hair texture, these are all really low vibrational things to have your mind consumed with when we're only here for a very limited amount of time. And we're really essentially supposed to spend a lot of that time preparing to pass on to the next life, right? Gearing up for that, getting our conscious level high enough to where we recognize that none of that stuff matters, right? One of my favorite things that was ever stated online in like the spiritual community, spiritual spaces, was said by creator Fleur Burn, where she was like, if aliens were to come down and recognize that we are fighting one another because we have different skin colors, they would look at us like we were idiots. And it's true. It's true. Humans get caught up on the most mundane aspects of this reality, and they use it in a way to discriminate against one another, to waste time warring and fighting against one another over these things that are ultimately irrelevant, right? Even the gender wars in my experience are irrelevant to a degree. Now, I will say that when one specific group of people are being attacked over and over and over and over again, like in the case of Black women, when you see those attacks repeatedly coming, and they're usually coming from a very specific male demographic, when you see that occurring over and over and over again, you do need to recognize that for what it is, right? An attempt at harvesting your energy, an attempt at taking your energy and using it for monetary gain, taking your attention that you give to them mocking you and tearing you down, and then using that for monetary gain while also lowering your energy and feeding off of you. It is very mindful that you're aware of those tactics so that you know to avoid those types of people and to ignore them. Yes, you need to know when you're in spiritual warfare. You need to know when people like that are attacking. You need to be mindful of that so that you can't ignore it or see them for what they are, right? A lower level entity that is like the equivalent of a scavenger or a roach, right? You need to be aware of that. But at the same time, you cannot let that to consume you, right? Because ultimately you need to practice enough mindfulness to see these things for what they are and then move past it. Because ultimately the all is mind, and most of these attacks on us, most systemic attacks, systemic oppression, is just the result of mental magic and psychic attacks. I was just watching a video from another creator about Solomonic magic, and she was talking about how she wants to start teaching a lot of her students about it because one of the women that she was working with was being attacked by a man who was a part of the Masons. And what was he using? He was using ceremonial magic. He was using mental magic. He was using that Golden Dawn, the Thelema type of magic, the Aleister Crowley brand of magic on her, which the Masons practice, right? People that look exactly like you that are a part of these groups, right? These ritualistic secret societies, they are practicing mental magic. They are launching psychic attacks on people, like everyday people that they encounter, on women that they're dating, right? So it is important that you're mindful of that can occur, and that you might encounter individuals like that, and you do need to be protected. But you also need to understand that when it comes to mental magic, when it comes to psychic attacks, if you as a collective believe that you're oppressed and you're less than, if you believe that you're inherently lesser than another group of people, that's what's going to manifest in the 3D. Racism, white supremacy, these are all massive thought forms that we fuel with our energy. And these are systems of oppression that only exist because people believe in it. It's the same thing with the patriarchy. And if the reason that male-centered women exist is because deep down those women believe that they are less than men and the male is superior. Christianity exists because those systems of religion, millions of people believe it. Millions of people believe that the Bible is literal, right? They don't believe it's allegory. They don't see it as just stories, right? They believe that it is the absolute truth, right? So the only way to combat things in this realm, in this reality, is by not believing it, is by removing your attention, right? And I realize that's easier said than done. And again, that's why I have this channel, because it's really important to me to point these things out to you all, because these are ultimately the secrets of the universe. One of the biggest secrets of the universe is it's only real if you believe it, right? It's only real if you put a concerted thought and belief behind it, right? That's how belief systems come from the mind into the 3D. Everything is in the mind. It all starts in the mind. And it's through that belief in the mind that it comes through to fruition in the 3D reality. Most people don't have the mental fortitude to ignore their 3D reality, which is why it's so hard to break out of these systems, right? But if I'm speaking for myself specifically, even as a child, I never believed any race of people was better than me or more superior than I never felt inherently inferior. And that has allowed me to navigate life in a way where I don't make myself smaller than anyone, regardless of their race or their gender. Because there was something inside of me that knew that none of that was true. None of those belief systems were true. I wasn't any less than anyone. And so that's the purpose of this video. That's ultimately the purpose of this channel, is to point out how these different systems of thought and belief structure work in this realm, and to provide guidance on how to navigate them and look out for any of the kind of tricks that occur to keep you tethered to this 3D realm and lower your conscious levels.